Hey, what's up? This is Christopher Stolle of Realm of the Mist Entertainment. The podcast you are listening to is part of the SJ Network. Go to s-j-network.com. That's s-j-network.com for more great podcasts and information on those shows, as well as information and ability to contact publicist Steve Joyner for more information. Just go to the website and check out the family, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, enjoy the show.
Hey Henry, today is the Season 5 premiere of Too Many Podcasts. And today's guest is podcaster and professional basketball coach, Scott Fields.
I know, I'm really looking forward to it. I've been working on my three-point shot. Watch this.
Well, I'm guessing that the Sherpa didn't really need that window. Or the flat screen TV anyway.
Maybe Coach Scott is looking for a water boy.
Henry, you might not even make it as a water bot.
Attention rebels of the Sherpalution. Today's podcast is being brought to you by Audible. You can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Sherpa. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And now Mr. Bruce will lead you into the Sherpa Chalet. As a reminder, the restrooms are located near the yellow snow.
Welcome to Too Many Podcasts, the podcast about podcasts. Now, podcasting from the Sherpa Chalet on Mount Podcastia, here's your host, Jim, the podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, Rebels, and welcome to Season 5 of Too Many Podcasts. You know who this is. It's me, Jim, the podcast Sherpa. Welcome to the show if you've never been here before. And you know what? To start off Season 5, it's going to be a theme week.
It's theme week, it's theme week, it's theme week.
And this week's theme is sports. I haven't really talked about sports in the over 100 shows and 100 interviews that I've done so far, and what a great time to start it. And what a great guest to kick it off for this week.
Who's our guest today, Sherpa?
His name is Coach Scott Fields. He is a professional basketball coach, and I had a really great time talking to him. He's really inspiring to listen to, too. You know, you don't really have to be a basketball fan to enjoy this episode. You'll really enjoy the story that Scott has and what he has to say about the sport and how to really motivate you again. You know, it's really impressive. I guess I can't stress that enough. But we've got a really great week of podcast hosts who host sports podcasts. So let's kick it off right now with Coach Scott Fields. Hello, Rebels. I am out here on the hardwood with the coach, Mr. Coach. Mr. Coach? Mr. Coach. Mr. Coach Scott Fields. We'll give you one. How about Dr. Mr. Coach Scott Fields? Of the appropriately named Coach Scott Fields show. Because I think if it was somebody else, then, you know, they might get a little suspicious. But he has arrived. He is an incredible coach. He's coached international teams, and he's done a little commentary. And I know he said he's working on a book. Maybe we'll get a little bit of information out here. But he has joined us, and he's talking basketball with me, a short guy.
There you go. I'm hanging out with the Sherpa, baby. Let's do this.
He's
go.
with a short Sherpa. He's ready. So how you doing, Scott?
You know what? We're well. Thanks for asking. Again, it's a new normal out here. Hopefully people are just going to mask up and you know, take the precautions that are needed. You know, think about the elderly, think of the immunocompromised, and let's get these numbers down and let's get, you know, things where they need to be so we can get back to whatever this new normality is going to be, and, you know, not make things political, and, you know, just do something for the greater good of others, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, the health of everybody should be above anything else. You know, we've got to take care of ourselves and each other.
That's right. Health is wealth. So if we don't have our health, what do we have? And so again, let's make sacrifices for the greater good and help all those who are immunocompromised and who are at risk at this time. From this horrible pandemic, because these are unprecedented times. So again, I'm kind of one of those guys that's big into service and trying to provide and empower others. So if we can do that, come on, everybody. You should have been washing your hands anyway, and come on and throw on that mask. Because when you look at the stats, Sherpa, I heard this, that in China, which has much more density, they all wear masks and they have a more of an elderly population, and yet their numbers are lower than anybody in the world. And all they've done is just wear masks. They don't say, hey, it's going against my civil liberties or, political statements. They wear a mask and things are going well for them. So I feel like if we follow that lead, I think we're going to be in good shape.
Well, fingers crossed for that. So
there you go. That's right. Let's pray for it anyway.
That's right. So usually when I have my guests on, I usually give them the opportunity to talk a little bit about themselves. And I know you've got an interesting story coming up. So we'll kind of start wherever you'd like to start, and we'll make things up if we want to. Nobody fact checks me.
Well, I want to be factual. I don't want to misrepresent anything. Okay. Jim, I've been blessed. I was a Hall of Fame high school player in the state of Indiana, which if you're a basketball fan, you know that's kind of big. And then, got right into coaching. I coached at the college level for 14 years and had multiple nationally ranked programs. At the tender age of 26, I took my very first professional head coaching job. Have been overseas for 15 years, accumulated a 780 win percentage, won multiple championships, dabbled into the NBA, coached out here with Coach Jerry Sloan, the Hall of Fame coach for the Utah Jazz. Consulted with him for 2 seasons, got to coach NBA MVP Steph Curry when he was a rookie with the Golden State Warriors. So to sit here and tell you that I've been blessed, I've been lucky, I've been fortunate to be paid to travel the globe, coaching the game that I love, and to work with these highly skilled athletes to help them and empower them and make their market value greater and provide for their families financially. To say that I've been lucky would be an understatement. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank all those people who gave me those opportunities to come in and coach. I'm a lucky guy. If you looked up lucky and overachiever in the dictionary, you would see me.
Your picture's right there.
There you go. That's right. Now, I've got a face for radio. Let me tell you that, though.
I tell that to people all the time. They're like, how come I don't see you on video? Because I have a face for podcasting. Well, let's leave it at
There you go. There you go. Come on, Sherpa. You're the man.
So when did you first start playing basketball? Were you like a really little kid, or was it high school years?
I was. You know what? Very competitive at a very young age. My dad exposed me to a lot of the sports at the youth level. He was actually my coach in youth league baseball. He was my coach in youth league football. Introduced me to the game of basketball at a very, very young age. I loved watching him and his friends, shooting baskets out in the backyard. He was a competitive guy. So that was kind of my introduction into sports and basketball. I was blessed that I played varsity in high school for 4 sports. I actually ran track, set school records, and actually went to the state in track in Indiana. Received offers in football and basketball. Played baseball my freshman year, but the game just wasn't fast enough. And I enjoyed pushing myself. And my passion and purpose was basketball. I knew that at a very young age. I would sit there at night and kind of analyze basketball. And I knew that when I could sit there with coasters on a coffee table and teach my mom the game of basketball, I figured, that maybe there's a future in this for me. And I just wanted to give back to the game that was so good to me. And that's kind of what set me on my path to become a coach.
That was actually going to be my next question. I guess you probably know at some point that okay, well, I've got this under my belt and now it's really like a next step in your life.
Yeah, it was natural progression for me. And I was actually, I was kind of forced into that decision. As I mentioned to you, I was blessed that I was a Hall of Fame player in the state of Indiana. And to accept my scholarship down in the state of North Carolina, I was required to take an oral polio vaccine to accept my scholarship. And when I took that vaccine, Jim, that actually caused my immune system to go awry, and it actually attacked every joint in my body. So I went from being a Hall of Fame player to being bedfast for 9 months. So the game was actually taken away from me in some form, but yet the college coach that I played for knew my aspirations that I wanted to get into coaching. So he allowed me to come back, finish my undergraduate degree, which forced me to grow up very early because I was already coaching players that were my age and older. And to be living in the dorm with players that you're coaching and have to hold them accountable and, force them to make good decisions. It forced me to grow up early. And so, for the first multiple years of my life, I coached at the college level and climbed the ranks quickly because I was a great recruiter. We had, as I mentioned before, many of those teams that we coached at the college level were nationally ranked. We had players of the year, which set me on the path to get right into the professional ranks. And when we did that, again, my first professional head coaching job was at the age of 26. And I took a club that had only won 6 games a year before. And that year, we actually set a record for the number of wins in their club's history. So for us to have that success, it kind of got some talk. It carved out a niche for ourselves. And I was able to practice and utilize my philosophies to continue to climb the professional ranks, which led me into also the NBA. So I've been lucky. There's been a lot of risk. There's been a lot of sacrifice, but yet there was also a lot of growth personally and professionally that set me on the path that I feel, I'm a spiritual person. So I believe God had a plan, and that was kind of my mentality with that I was going to be a vessel and a vehicle for him to utilize him and my platform. And that's kind of where it went. So again, I've been one of the luckiest guys you've ever met, truly.
And you really give a true definition to making a comeback from being bedridden to following up as a coach. Do you remember your first game that you coached?
Of course I do. As an assistant coach, when I was still struggling with my health, being out on the floor, working with the players, teaching them, out of bounds plays, teaching them game time adjustments, defensive strategies. But my first head coaching job, definitely remember because, we took a team that had not been successful and, we were instilling confidence. We were developing the players by giving them skills to, help them with their skill sets, and to see that team and see those individuals prosper. It was probably one of the most gratifying things that I knew I had made the right career choice for myself, because there was something about the psychology and the strategy and, just playing chess while everybody else was playing checkers in my mind, really showed me that I had made the right decision for myself. And I knew that I was using my platform in the right way being a coach.
And didn't you have an undefeated championship season with one of your teams?
We did. And one of those teams, I was over actually in the country of Saudi Arabia, where I actually lived across from the Bin Laden family compound. We actually won international games for the first time in the kingdom's history. That was a unique season as well. So, to sit there and win 56 games in a season, not lose a game, not have a blemish. A lot of people will say, well, you didn't even know they played basketball there. But to win an Asian championship and be the number one team throughout all of the Asian countries, that was a big deal. Got to meet the king and the prince of Saudi Arabia. So that was interesting. I've got to meet a lot of neat political dignitaries, through my travels. The prime minister of Lebanon, who was actually assassinated, was one of the main supporters. I got to, spend time with them, and just great stories that I know that if and when I do get around to writing this book, I think there'll be some very insightful things that'll be shared. A lot of creative content for sure, and it's all factual.
Now, what's it like playing basketball overseas? Is it the same rules as in American basketball? Are there different?
No, there are different rules. Good question. There are actually FIBA rules. There's a no-touch rule. So, like, as soon as the basket is scored, you can actually get out of bounds, or right after a foul, get the ball out of bounds, sprint out of bounds. and go. The lane is a little bit wider. It's more of a trapezoid type figure. The 3-point line is moved in a little bit closer. And they also have the touch rule that as soon as the ball touches the rim, a player can actually go knock the basketball off the rim. That here in the NBA, that would actually be a goaltending. There's little rule changes like that kind of speed up the game and make it entertaining. So as far as rules wise, there are a few differences. And I think that's why, even though after the 1992 Dream Team that took the game global, that's why we sometimes struggle in international play because of those rule differences.
Yeah, I'm thinking, if you went from college to the pros to international, and you're really dealing with a whole different mentality with each type of play.
Yes, well, it's always a different form of government. Coaching in China, of course, there's communism. Coaching with different languages, you often have to adjust to that, learn the new languages, learn the currency and what the US dollar is equivalent to their local currency, dealing with different religions, talking about Saudi Arabia and coaching in the Middle East where we've won multiple championships. In Saudi Arabia, that's a Muslim country, and during the prayer call, which happens multiple times during the day, if the prayer call came out during a game, the game just stopped. And then all of the players would actually, go clean and wash out all orifices, lean towards Mecca and pray towards Allah. It didn't matter if it was in the middle of the third quarter or not, the game stopped. So you have to adjust to those kind of things. So those are unique experiences that help you grow as a person and as a professional. And it makes you know that you have to adapt to your surroundings. And you can't have just a strong American ego and go in and say, hey, I'm going to change this. No, you have to adapt to the culture, to the surroundings, and to the environment to make it successful.
Did you ever have any close calls when you were over there, or everything was?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Matter of fact, when the prime minister of Lebanon was actually assassinated, I was actually with one of my players who was Canadian, who was with the Canadian national team. We were actually going to the travel agency to get a ticket for his wife and his son to come over during their spring break. And that's when the prime minister was actually killed. We felt the bomb blast, and the bomb blast was so harsh that it actually almost knocked us off of our feet, because as a crow flies, we were probably only 3/4 of a mile from where that bomb blast was. And then actually, I went to go see the movie Hitch with Will Smith at a Christian movie theater. And that movie theater was actually blasted by a bomb 1 week after I saw that movie. So there's a lot of things where you have to be vigilant. You have to be careful. You have to surround yourself with hopefully good people that are going to help you make good decisions, because you're in a foreign country. And if there is civil war, if there is, political unrest, you have to be vigilant and care. Yeah. So, I mean, those are stories right there. You're probably scratching your head going, holy cow, does that really happen over there? But yeah, those are a few things that I experienced, while I was overseas. But yet then I can also look at, coaching in Sweden, where it was so clean and pristine, and Aurora Borealis being so far north, and felt like, you were actually coaching in a national park because it was just so beautiful. And then I think of Puerto Rico and Germany and Austria, Venezuela, Puerto Rico. I've been very lucky. I always tease people that my passport had more ink than a Sunday newspaper. So I had a lot of fun and have been blessed with a lot of travel. And to think that I traveled on somebody else's dime, I wish I would have not taken it for granted and taken more photos and documented more things, because I was so involved in, trying to win basketball games, and my focus was on me winning and us having success so I could have other opportunities, that I didn't really embrace the cultures enough. I didn't really, I would travel and look at castles and see the countryside and, see, historical landmarks, which I think are valuable. But I wish I would have done a better job looking back at it, with hindsight being 2020, of course.
That actually kind of leads into my next question. I'm curious, with all the world traveling that you did, are there any places that really stand out in your memory?
Well, basketball-wise, I loved Lebanon, believe it or not. Even though there was so much political unrest, growing up in the state of Indiana, it was so much fun, because basketball was the number one sport. And in Lebanon, it was the same thing. But what also made Lebanon interesting, we won a championship with the first team that I coached there. Let me tell you why it was so fun. Not only was it sport, and the team that we played in the finals was the 7-time reigning champion, but yet it was also political because the prime minister backed our team. The president of the country backed that other team that had won the championships, and yet also sport, politics, and religion. My team was Muslim based. Their team was Christian based. So sports, politics, and religion all intertwined. Our gym that we played our home games in was about 5,500 people. And it would kind of remind you, the sports fans would know Cameron Indoor. And we would have, sold out crowds of 6,000 people packed into that gym, but 4,000 people sitting outside the arena watching the game on the big screen. And when you would win a game, it would take you an hour to get to your car because everybody's picking you up, carrying you around on their shoulders because they love the game of basketball so much. So basketball wise, definitely Lebanon. As far as scenery and beauty, probably Sweden. As far as cultural experience, probably because it was communist coaching in China, where there are 6 billion people, over there, and 300 million people that are registered to play basketball. That was interesting. But then I think of Austria with the Alps and the skiing. And then I think of, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela. I've just been so lucky to have traveled to so many beautiful countries and experienced those cultures and yet build championship winning level basketball teams that, again, I'm just a lucky guy.
And it's funny that the spirit of competition just really kind of brings that all into a different kind of focus for you, I guess, having been a coach and all of that.
Well, the game of basketball is how we bonded. And, lucky for me that most of those countries, a lot of those players speak English. Now, and let's say Luxembourg, it was like the 4th or 5th language because Luxembourg had their own dialect, which was Luxembourgish. Then they also spoke a dialect of German. They spoke a dialect of Belgium, and they also spoke a dialect of French. So English being their 5th language, but yet basketball and basketball terminology, most players knew and understood English enough. The only place that I had to have a translator 24 hours a day with me was in China because of Cantonese and also Mandarin. So there, I could not survive without a translator because I did not learn Mandarin. I learned numbers and I learned small greetings, but every player had to have a nickname. And thank goodness I had a great translator because of him and his English and the way he translated, that's why we had success there. I don't have the ego to say that it was me. It was my translator who was able to get my message across to the players why we had that success there.
Let's talk about your podcast a little bit, the Coach Scott Fields Show.
Oh, you know what, Jim, it's been so much fun. When my wife and we adopted our son, Brandon, I took that responsibility very seriously. I stepped away from coaching to raise our son with my wife. And without my wife's help, it would have never been possible. She was amazing. She was loving. She was nurturing. She helped build, the confidence of this young man. He has a unique story as well. He's African-American that came from South Central LA, and his biological mom moved him to Salt Lake to get him away from gang violence because his 2 uncles that were 19 and 21 were killed in gang violence activity. So for me to fill that void, to be a father figure to a young man, it was amazing to me. We were truly blessed. I feel like God had a plan for us. And to see our son graduate college, to see him now also who loves basketball, just sign his 3rd contract to be a professional basketball player. No matter who I coached in the NBA, no matter what championships we won around the globe, to see our son who we adopted, that kind of feels like a Blind Side story. If you've seen that movie with Sandra Bullock, there was a lot of parallels with that. So to see my son come from where he came from, to see him now getting paid for the game to play that he loves has truly been one of the biggest blessings in my life. I've got to admit that. But I couldn't have done it without my wife and then her supporting me with my basketball and then with the podcast that we do. It was my way of scratching the itch and still being around the game and having my NBA friends and NBA coaches and NBA front office executives, NCAA coaches, a lot of journalists. It was my way of connecting with them and allowing them a platform to come on and share their journeys and share their insights. And it's truly been rewarding. If people have, like basketball, if they like NBA, if they like sports entertainment industry, they can follow the show. We just kind of picked up our YouTube, which is the Coach Scott Field Show on YouTube. But on Facebook is where we stream it live. It's actually facebook.com/Coach SF. And our viewership and our likes have really grown. So if they want to like that, they can like or follow the Coach Scott Field Show on Facebook. That's where we stream it live. And, we just have a lot of fun with it. So I know I covered a lot of things in a short time there, but it feels like there's just so much information to share that, I'm just honored and humbled at the success that we've had. And since COVID, we just upped the frequency of that because, Jim, I got to be honest, I feel like the sports entertainment industry is so woven into our fabric as a culture that sports is a respite and a distraction. And it kind of unites us as a country. And we so need that right now. That's why I kind of picked up the frequency of our show during COVID-19 by having those guests come on. It kind of allowed people to hear and see and learn from some of those well-respected people in the sports and entertainment industry.
Do you have a dream guest for your show that you haven't had yet?
That's a great question. I've just been lucky again, Jim, that, a lot of my friends, as I coached in the NBA, I've got a great network of friends and they've come on and shared great stories. So I feel like people that we've wanted to have on have come on. But if it was just in like an entertainer, I think it'd be great to have like Kevin Costner come on because he played in a lot of sports movies, whether it was like Draft Day or, Love of the Game or Field of Dreams or even Tin Cup. I think he would be an interesting interview. Maybe political figures, it'd be kind of cool to have Barack Obama to come on maybe. But again, I don't know. I've just had a lot of fun with it. And I've been lucky that the people have kind of reached out to me that they've seen our show and said, hey, I would love to come on and be on your show. And so to me, I mean, how lucky can you be? Just like me, come on to your show with the Sherpa to sit here and just talk and share stories. I feel honored and humbled to do that. So I can't thank you enough for allowing me this opportunity.
Well, I'm very happy to have you. Now, you actually have done motivational speaking. And
yes,
I guess that's probably just such an easy transition from coaching into being a motivational speaker.
Well, I share my testimony of, being a Hall of Fame player and then going, to being bedfast and, being laser-like focused and blocking out the white noise or everybody who told me I couldn't do something. I kind of use that as motivation, but I kind of hate to use the term motivational speaker. I kind of hope it's more inspirational because hopefully it inspires a person that is listening, that hopefully it'll put a tool in their toolbox and empower them to be successful no matter what career path that they choose.
I was thinking with all your years of experience as a coach and, what do you think that you do as a coach that you need to do to get through to your players, to get them on that right frame of mind during the game? Is there you have any tricks?
I wouldn't call it tricks. I would call it more skill sets. But Jim, it's a great question because I see a lot of young coaches out there who make a lot of mistakes because I think their ego gets in the way and they do it for them and not for the players that they're coaching. So to me, it's about not just communication. To me, it's effective communication and building that rapport and building that trust with them by holding players accountable, by holding them, by challenging them and making them and helping and assisting them become better and adding tools to their toolkit to help them with their skill set. So that way it increases their market value. To me, that's the real challenge. And to me, you got to meet the players where they're at and see where they're at, give them an honest evaluate assessment. Don't tell them what they want to hear, but be brutally honest with them because I feel like the good players truly want and need to be coached and they don't want to hear fluff. They don't want to hear what they don't want to just hear what everybody else around them tells them. You got to surround them with good support systems. So for me, it's effective communication. It's building that rapport. It's building that trust. It's having that sustainable relationship and knowing that you're going to be there for them to help them attain their personal and professional goals and help them along their career path. So that way it increases their market value so they can take care and provide for their families with longevity.
And you brought up a good point, the brutal honesty, because you can't just tell the player, yeah, you're doing great. And then they move on and somebody says, when did you learn these skills for? Why are you doing things this way?
Yeah, it takes corrective criticism. And, one of the first questions that I ask players that I coach, and I'm glad you asked that, because one of the first things that I ask them, I'll come up, and I've learned this from great NBA coaches who I was around. My first introduction to them, Jim, is, I'd give them a good firm handshake. And if they didn't give me a good firm handshake back, I would challenge them and said, hey, be a man, give me a good firm handshake and make good eye contact with me. Because if you can't make eye contact with me, you're hiding something, or you're insecure, or you don't have the self-confidence, and we're going to build that. But will you allow me to coach you? And if they give me the yes, that they will allow me to coach them, immediately I'm going to challenge them. I'm going to hold them accountable, and I'm going to be brutally honest with them. And again, hold them to a higher level of accountability and challenge them to a level they've never been challenged before. But with them saying, yes, they'll allow me to coach them, now the accountability goes back on them. And I can throw back to them and say, hey, you said I could coach you. Do we have a disconnect in our communication? Because if that's the case, let's slow down and build that trust in one another so I can help take you and elevate your game to another level.
And you've actually coached players who've ended up in the NBA as well.
Yes, many current and former NBA players. Of course, the most recognizable name is Steph Curry, a guy who has won multiple championships, a guy who was the NBA MVP and actually was a unanimous MVP vote decision. So I was able to work with him his rookie year, and actually also coached and worked with him again at an NBA charity event here in Salt Lake City. It was just an honor to be around guys who are that skilled. And you could see right away he was going to be something special because, one, he was humble. Two, he was coachable. And three, he had an appetite to want to learn how to become the best that he could be. And his laser-like focus where he could block out the white noise. Because in this business, Jim, believe it or not, there's a lot of cynicism and there's a lot of negativity with journalists and with scouts who say, you can't do this and you're not good at that. And, this is not one of your strengths. So for a player like Steph, who is only 6'3" and Caucasian, who is not extremely athletic, but yet, he worked on his skill set with muscle memory and repetition. And you see how he's transformed the game by being a league MVP and winning, multiple championships. He was special.
Sure. And it's probably got to give you a little feeling of pride there, knowing that, probably what you said got through to him.
Well, it's humbling because, yes, he would actually ask me questions, and he didn't have to do that because I was not a full-time coach on that staff. One of my close friends who played at the University of Indiana and won a national championship with Coach Bobby Knight by hitting the game-winning shot to beat Syracuse. Keith Smart is one of my best friends, and he was actually the assistant coach who was later to be named head coach of Golden State. He invited me to come in and be with him and his staff, and that allowed me the opportunity to work with Steph. But for Steph to sit there and ask me questions and pull me aside and ask me my opinions when I was there as an outside resource or consultant, it humbled me, but yet it also gave me gratification to know that in some small part, maybe I was just a part of his journey. And as a coach, there's nothing better than to see a player have success that you've worked with, because you cannot put a price tag on that. It's so gratifying to see them achieve high level goals.
Sure. Now, are there other podcasts that you like to listen to?
There are. I enjoy, of course, being in the sports entertainment industry. I enjoy, some of the sports journalists. I like the Woj pod. I actually like Joe Rogan, a guy who does a good job, in the MMA format. But I think some of his guests that he brings on, that's somebody I like. But my all-time favorite would have to be DP, the Dan Patrick Show, who used to be a sports broadcaster with ESPN. I think he and his show, to me, every morning I start off listening to that in the background, because Dan Patrick and then his Danettes, Polly and Fritzy and Seton, those guys are just phenomenal, and they do a great job in the sports entertainment industry because they bring a perspective and they bring insight to the listener. And to me, that's what you got to do as an interviewer. As we talked before off camera, it's your guest, but their answers to your questions that are the star of the show.
It's funny when you mentioned Joe Rogan, and I was having a conversation with somebody about him, and he said, well, why is he so big? And I said, you know what? He's been doing this for 12 years. He's got it down. He's got such a varied background between acting and stand-up comedy, television hosting, MMA, and being a comic. He probably just knows how to deliver and be well-spoken and probably be able to riff on anything that comes up.
That's right. And it's just like you, Jim. Right here with the Sherpa, you've got a great personality. You know how to interact. You get the guest to feel comfortable, and you're educated enough that you can talk about many different topics. So, you're the same way. So I see you in that same light. And I just think that, you have to do it your own way, just like a coach. Your own way, your own style, your own personality, and, just be who you are and let that flow, and yet have that quality interaction and have those great questions that brings out the best in your guest.
Before I have you do your shameless self-promotion, which we'll get to in a little bit. Now, before we even started, I told Scott an honest truth. I said, I am horrible at basketball. I never had game, right? That's the appropriate phrase. If you had like a player like me who said, okay, coach, I want to be a good player, what would be like 3 things that you'd want me to know?
Well, the first thing that I would do, I would want to just watch you from afar and assess and see where your skill level is at. Because for somebody to know where they want to go, they got to know where they're at. So I would want to give you an honest assessment to see what you could do, see what you could do well. And then we would start breaking down the fundamentals. I'd want to make sure that you could be, a great ball handler and have ball mastery and be able to handle the basketball well. I'd want to see, that you can make an effective pass, ball handling, passing, your heart and character can be within. So that those tangibles can come. But I'd also want to work with your mechanics on your jump shot and break down the mechanics of your jump shot to help, so that way you could coach yourself and give yourself teaching tools, so that way you can make the corrections for yourself when coaches aren't around. So we would just break everything down from crawl before you walk before you run, and then get it down to that crawl level and say, okay, this is where you're at. Let's work on your ball skills. Let's work on your ball handling. Let's work on your passing, and let's work on your shooting, because the other things can naturally come. And we would show you how to teach yourself and show yourself by giving yourself guides with all the proper mechanics that need to be taught, because a lot of those steps are just missed right now in the game of basketball. The game is overcoached but undertaught. And those who are great coaches are great teachers. So if I could teach my mom on a coffee table with coachers or with coasters the game of basketball and how to go against a 1-3-1 or a 2-3, I know I could take the Sherpa and teach you a proper jump shot.
I won't end up as a Michael Jordan, but that's okay. I can live with that.
But that's okay. But you could be a star in your role and be an asset to whatever team or whatever church league or whatever rec league that you're going to be in, my man.
That's right. I could be the 3-point Sherpa.
There you go. There's a ring to that, the 3-point Sherpa. I like it.
Was there ever any advice that maybe when you were a player that you got from a coach that kind of sticks in your head when you deal with coaching other players?
I can't really say that it's something that a coach told me in my playing career, but it's just how I wanted to treat players as I was a coach, because I wanted to treat them as I wanted to be treated. So for me, one lesson that I learned from Louis Carnesecca as St. John's coach out your way, when I must have been 20 years old. I went to a Nike coaching clinic, and I remember Lou Carnesecca saying, coaches, treat these players like they're aliens. Don't take for granted that they know anything. Take them where they're at, build them up, treat them like they're aliens. Don't take for granted that they know what you know, because they probably don't. So don't be afraid to teach. Don't be afraid to demonstrate, and don't be afraid to slow down and teach them the right way. So for me as a coach, that was probably one of the best pieces of advice I could have, is not take for granted that they knew something. Even if I coached them the previous year, I still wanted to break everything down and get at grassroots level and build them up to find out what their strengths were, allow them to do what their strengths were, but yet add other assets to their game. So not only did they have a move, they would have a counter move, and a counter move to that counter move.
I like that. So, before we let you go, we almost forgot about the book. So you said you were contemplating writing a book. You've got like the ideas, but nothing on paper yet.
Well, I have started. I've got an old laptop, and believe me, it's an old laptop that I've taken my experiences through all the multiple countries that I've been at. Now, where I need to do a better job, and I own this, is because I get too busy with any of these other projects that I get going. But I really do hope that one day in the near future, I'm going to get that book out. We're going to get it published. We're going to get it edited and put a quality piece that is going to educate and bring awareness to the cultures that I've been in, the governments that I've had to work around, the languages that we've had to learn, the players that were integral parts of those teams that won championships. Yet I also want it to be a tool to where it's going to help you within your growth as a business or whatever skill or trade that you have, that you can take these lessons that we're going to put in this book to make it an empowering book to educate you, bring awareness, and help you on whatever career path that you have. That's what I'm hoping to attain with my book.
That sounds good. And I guess while we're talking about your book, we do have the portion of the show called Shameless Self-Promotion.
Shameless self-promotion.
And this is where you can let everybody know where they can reach you and where they can follow you. And the floor is all yours, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that. Shameless promotion. I've got to do a better job of this. But my show is live streamed on Facebook. And again, it's facebook.com/Coach SF. I also have that show and other content on my YouTube channel, which is the Coach Scott Fields Show. I am on Twitter, Scott_Fields. I am on Instagram at Coach Scott Fields. So that's where we're at right now. Now we're going to, start doing some podcasts, getting all the content for the years of all the guests and content that I've had on podcasts, because I know that's the way to go, just as you're doing. So Sherpa, I'm learning from you, my man, and I thank you for that. So we're going to get some podcasts going here in the near future, but I just love the live streaming, the organic, raw interaction that comes with that. So that's why we kind of use live stream for the Coach Scott Fields Show on Facebook right now. And maybe I'm learning through my son, who is young, that we kind of need to use IGTV on Instagram. So that may be something that we also venture off into here in the near future. I've got to learn all this technology stuff through my son. They're so good at this stuff.
Well, hey, if you're a good teacher, I'm sure you're going to be a good learner about that, Scott. So I don't think you have to.
I got to try. I got a long way to go, my man. A long way to go.
So one last question before I let you go. With the world being in the current state that it's in and the NBA season being shorter, you think it should happen, or should they just kind of wait till next year? What is your opinion on that?
Great question. As you asked me this today, I don't know when this show is going to air, but it is actually Wednesday, July 15th. Every day, the data changes. Every day, there are adjustments made. Do I think the NBA will do a great job? I think Adam Silver is by far the best commissioner in all pro sports. I think he's progressive. I think he listens well. I think he does a phenomenal job of gathering input from professionals and scientists and data, which I feel is very much needed. I feel he's also going to allow the players to use their platforms and to use basketball to continue the movements for social injustice, for racial inequality, which is also needed right now. But with this pandemic and these unprecedented times, do I think the NBA will come back? My fingers are crossed. But again, right now, as we record this, July 15th, you look at Florida and the numbers that they currently have, they are spiking and rising at an alarming rate. We have to put everybody's health and safety at the forefront. Health is wealth. And for people at risk, for people who are immunocompromised, I think it's a lot to ask these players to put their careers and livelihoods in jeopardy to be a source of entertainment for us. But there is $900 million of contracts and TV revenues on the table. So I understand the financial end of it. But I do think the NBA will come back. I think it's a great distraction. I think it's a great respite for us, and it will unite us even for a short time as we watch professional sports being played. And it will unite us in a way because we're going to get together and watch these sports entertainers entertain us and give us that distraction and respite that we so need. So yes, I look forward to it as a fan and as a guy, a former player who knows many of the players and has many friends on the coaching staffs. I'm excited for them because this is what they get paid to do. So to make a grown man stop everything and not be able to do what they're paid to do and what they love to do, it's time to unleash the tiger and let these players play as long as we can keep them healthy and as long as we can keep them safe.
Absolutely. Nice way to end this interview. And I'd like to thank you, Mr. Here I go again, Mr. Dr. Reverend General Coach Scott Fields. He hosts the Coach Scott Fields show on YouTube and Facebook Live. Thanks again for coming by.
Sherpa, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm honored and humbled. And keep doing what you're doing. You're doing something fabulous. And again, I just appreciate the opportunity to come in. And I hope we've given something special for your viewers and listeners as well. So thank you so much. I'm proud of you. I'm a fan of what you do. Keep it going, my man.
Thanks a lot.
And now it's time for Sherpa Suggestions.
For today's Sherpa Selects, I've found an article on a website called podcastreview.org, and the article was written by Jake Greenberg, and it's on the 10 best NBA podcasts. So let's hear them. We've got the Bill Simmons podcast. We don't really talk about him that often. We have Breakaway, Dunked On, D-U-N-C''D, that stars Nate Duncan and Danny LaRue. The Jump, The Low Post, L-O-W-E, All the Smoke, Posted Up with Chris Haynes, Real GM Radio, The Rights to Ricky Sanchez, and finally, The Greatest of All Talk. And combine that with Scott's podcast, and you will have a slam dunk for your choices. Okay, that was a little cheesy, but hey, it works, right? 2 points for the Sherpa. Thanks a lot for tuning in to Sports Week on Too Many Podcasts. You've been listening to me, Jim the Podcast Sherpa, and I would like to thank my very special guest, Here I go again, Mr. Coach Scott Fields. How about just Coach Scott Fields or Mr. Scott Fields? Take your choice. You can call me Ray, you can call me Jay, you know the deal. Anyway, we'll be back with more sports podcasts this week, and tomorrow we will be speaking with Brian Snow, also known as Snowman in the Morning. And Friday, we will be talking to JB Ellis of the program and the Journey of the Jays. So if you like sports, those are the guys you want to check out. If you like this show, you know what you can do? Get it on your favorite podcast app or listen on my website, Sherpalution.com. And Sherpalution, that's the word you need to follow this show on social media. Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. We're always there, 24 hours a day. I never sleep. I'm not allowed to. It's Mr. Bruce. I'm going to blame him. He's making all that noise in the background. So, Mr. Bruce, if you can, we'll have everything quiet down now. If you can escort everyone to the door, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you, sir. And I will see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Too Many Podcasts. Please disperse. You can go home now. I said you can go home now. Viva la Sherpalution. Viva la Sherpalution. Oh. Yeah, I'll come back now, you hear?